Hi folks, my name's Jem, I'm the Crazy Pigeon Lady, and it's my mission to entertain, educate and inspire you with all things pigeon and dove. Welcome back to my series #Ask the Pigeon Lady, where I am taking your questions. If you haven't asked a question yet, please do pop it down in the comments below and I will try to get to as many questions as I can. So this week I have a question from Sir Quentin Crispy, who asks, how much grit or oyster shell do you give each day? So before I answer your question, Sir Quentin, about how much grit to give each day, I just want to talk a little bit about grit in general, because this seems to be a subject where you'll find conflicting advice and information, and occasionally it gets a little bit controversial. So let's talk about why pigeons eat grit. So pigeons in the wild would consume grit. So when I talk about grit, I mean small particles of stones of all sorts of different kinds, including salts and shell, of perhaps snail shells or perhaps seashells if it was near the coast. The reason why pigeons consume grit is for a couple of reasons. Partly because of the mechanical action that having grit in their gizzard gives them to support their digestion. So pigeons can't chew their food, they don't have any teeth. So they swallow all of their food, seeds, which have a sort of hard outer shell, they swallow them whole. And they can't chew them, so they need to be able to grind those seeds. So part of the reason why pigeons swallow grit that sits in the gizzard is to grind food. The other reason why pigeons swallow grit is because grit contains all sorts of minerals that are necessary for a healthy diet. Salts, many kinds of minerals, and particularly calcium, especially for hens. And they need calcium in order to form the eggshells. And in order to form those eggshells, it actually draws calcium from within their bone structure, essentially weakening their bones. So it's very important for them to replace calcium by taking it in through consuming minerals. So that's why pigeons need grit. They need a certain element of a grinding action to process their food, but they also need it for minerals. So when we translate that to the captive bird environment, things are a little bit different, because of course we are providing pigeons with their diet, we may be giving them supplements and things like that, so they don't have the same access to minerals. In fact, they probably have better access to minerals than a wild bird would outside. So when it comes to giving grit, it's important to consider what you're also giving your birds as part of their overall health and nutrition. So if you're giving a mineral supplement in another form, so for example you might be giving a powdered mineral supplement mixed with the food, or provided as a pick pot in a separate dish, or possibly even as a liquid supplement, then your pigeons are probably getting all of the minerals that they need, and therefore they don't need to consume as much grit. Similarly, if you are providing a calcium plus vitamin D supplement, perhaps via the water, then they won't necessarily need to consume as much calcium through the grit, because they'll be getting it via the supplement. When it comes to the grinding action of the digestion, pigeons do still need this if they are on a whole seed diet. If you are, however, feeding your pigeons on a pelleted diet, the pellets are produced by grinding the seeds and the other ingredients and then compressing them into a pelletized form. And possibly some pellet mixtures may even have mineral supplements contained with them as well. Pellets are considerably easier to digest because they are made of material that has already been ground up, and therefore the pigeons wouldn't need that much grit to consume if you're giving a pelleted diet either, because that work is essentially already done for them. So you need to think, when giving grit, about whether your pigeons are getting adequate minerals and adequate support for their digestion through the other things that you're already doing in your diet. Now for my birds in particular, they have a whole seed diet which I mix with a powdered mineral supplement. I also give a calcium plus vitamin D liquid supplement in their water. So my birds don't need a huge amount of mineral nutrition from the grit that they provide. So what I do is I put a small amount of grit in a dish for my birds that is freely available all of the time. really only a spoonful. I don't fill up the whole dish, I just give them a small amount. And I don't ration it, I just make it available to them in a dish that they can access whenever they want to. And I trust my own birds to meet their own needs. So if they're getting enough minerals, then they won't crave grit because they're getting enough minerals. If they are getting enough calcium, then they won't consume the grit for calcium because their body won't lead them to crave it because they're already getting the nutrition that they need. So I do notice them pecking at grit very occasionally, but they really don't take very much, mainly because they are already getting plenty of good nutrition. So to bring that all back round to answer your question, Sir Quentin, the answer is there is no hard and fast rule about how much grit you should give to your birds. But if they are already getting plenty of good mineral nutrition, and perhaps if you're giving them a pelleted diet so they don't need the support to grind that down, then they really won't need to consume very much grit at all. So I wouldn't give them large amounts of grit, but do make a small amount available to them that they can take when they need. If you do notice or are concerned about how much grit that your bird is consuming, then withdraw the grit and just allow things to settle down. You may find that hens in particular, perhaps who are going through their first breeding system, may actually over-consume grit and may even indeed vomit it up, and this has happened to one of my own birds. Okay, so there's the answer to your question, Sir Quentin. I hope that has helped you. Please do ask further questions, drop them down in the comments, and I will try to get to as many as I can. Please make sure you subscribe to the channel, keep following this series, and I hope to see you in the next episode. Thanks very much, everyone. Bye bye.